Now, the Me Too movement sparked what could be considered one of the greatest cultural reckonings of our time. The New York Times spoke to 20 of the brave men and women who came forward to share their harrowing stories of sexual harassment and abuse. And now they're opening up about how the movement has impacted their lives. CBS News contributor Jodi Kantor and an investigative reporter for the New York Times also won a Pulitzer Prize for her extensive reporting, which helped fuel the Me Too movement, is here with me now. So Jodi, we were just talking. I thought this was an excellent article. I encourage people to read it.
Thank you so much. We would love it if people looked it up online, because I'm thrilled to talk to you about it today, but you sort of have to hear it in their own words and go through their own experiences.
You have to hear it, you have to see the pictures of these people. Why did you think this was necessary?
Because these people took such a big risk. They were coming out in public, in part about prominent people. And as reporters, we walked them through it and we experienced it firsthand and even worried, what are we, we don't know what kind of reaction they're going to get. We can make no guarantees. And so we wanted to come back to them and say, okay, what actually happened after you did this brave thing? How do you feel now? How did other people treat you? The responses are really diverse. First of all, I should say this is a collection of people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, mainly women, a few men. They most said that they got support, and some of the stories of how they got that support are very touching. Others said that they got a lonelier reaction. But the fascinating thing is that nobody says they regretted coming forward.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. And I thought also what was interesting was their emotional reaction to the post-coming forward world, the post-Me Too world. Gwyneth Paltrow talks about sort of the emotional reckoning of, okay, so Harvey Weinstein isn't there anymore, but also this entire system is dismantling. And how do I operate in this brand new system? I never even considered that having, as women, we've sort of acquired the tools to navigate a world that is changing now.
Completely. Completely. Her quote was really profound because it was about the fact that if you're a woman, you're kind of indoctrinated into this world where pleasing men is, part of the job of being a woman. And now that that's changing a little bit, who are you? And what are the systems and defenses that all of us have built up that we may not even need anymore? I was also very touched by some of the changes that people have made in their lives after this. One of my favorite stories is from Drew Dixon. Drew is a former was, when we spoke to her, a former music producer, a real talent. This is the woman, do you know the great Whitney Houston song, Your Love Is My Love? Really like one of the great pop songs, classic. She's the one who found that song for Whitney. For Whitney Houston. So really somebody who was a bright light on the way up in the industry when she was basically harassed and abused out of the industry. And for a long time she didn't make music because her career had come to such a terrible end. After coming out in the Times about what had happened to her, she went back to the studio for the first time in many years and started making music again.
And she talks about the fact that one of the things that made her hesitant initially to come forward is that she was accusing Russell Simmons, a black man. And she said, as a black woman, we don't have as many heroes. Her quote is, it's very hard as a black woman to call out powerful black men because we have no heroes to spare. And there was Chris Brown, one of the few men in this article, and he called out conductor James Levine. And he talked about the amount of joy that this man brought to people and how they felt badly about what they were going to be doing to others and the image that other people had of these powerful men.
What Drew said that was so powerful to me is she said, we're already dealing with a cultural stereotype of the black man as a predator, and I don't want to do anything to add to that. But A, this really happened to me, and B, I want women of color to be part of the Me Too moment. And so she talked about eventually deciding to come forward, and really how much support she and other people received afterwards. Ashley Judd tells this remarkable story of wearing a Time's Up t-shirt just on a flight somewhere, and when she got off the flight, there was a line of people waiting to talk to her about their experiences.
Yeah, I thought that was Ashley Judd's experience, I think, is fantastic. She talks about people sort of writing notes to her, thanking her, and her really getting strength from the awareness that she's offered so much support to so many people. But then there were other people too who, I mean, they were sort of almost ghosted by their circle,
yes,
right?
and it was very telling hearing how many people around them reacted awkwardly.
Yes.
Just didn't know what to say. I think that there is still this idea, which has a basis in reality, that to talk about this stuff is to intrude on somebody's privacy.
Yes.
I think people,
even after these women have been so
exactly,
open.
People understandably don't want to bring up something embarrassing. They don't want to intrude or ask for any more detail.
Yeah.
But what we've learned from this article is that sometimes the person who's come forward is really thinking, how come nobody's saying anything to me?
Yeah. One woman writes about, she had a pretty good sort of, it was Karen Bruckner. People reacted pretty well. She got a lot of support, but what really moved her was her daughter. Her daughter tweeting out, wow, Mom, this is so cool. This is so badass, excuse my French. You did the right thing and more power to you.
That warmed my heart as a journalist,
Yes.
because I think what we all want to feel as journalists, as people who watch the news, that participating in a story like this can show that your experiences mean something to other people, that they have a larger significance beyond the boundaries of your own life. And often when I talk, I know that talking to a reporter can be scary for many, many people, but the message I also want to send them is, your experiences count. They count. They're going to resonate with other people in one way or another. So I was so thrilled that she and others felt that.
Yeah, and I thought it sort of reminded us all that this is a movement that is going to change our workplace for the better, as uncomfortable as it might be in the meantime. And her teenage daughter, hopefully, will have a completely different experience when she embarks on her career.
Absolutely.
When people read this article, what do you want them to step away with? What's the feeling or the lesson or whatever?
You know, I would not even phrase it in terms of big slogans or sort of overarching principles, because I think the power of this article is that it's so varied, it's so personal,
Yes.
it's
very intimate.
it's so human,
Yeah.
it's so intimate. And so I think it's a question of taking this larger thing we call the Me Too moment and really breaking it down to these riveting individual stories that even with all of these months and all of these stories, they just keep gaining new power.
Yeah. You reminded us that there are human beings at the center of this movement. You brought the humanness back to it. Jodi Kantor, like I said before, great article. Thank you so much.
Thank you.